Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to IBM's webinar, The Enterprise Ready Imperative, Building Infrastructure that Delivers at Scale. I'm Namrata, your host for today. I'm a tech writer, and huge pleasure for me to be hosting this conversation as I'm always interested in researching AI and emerging trends across the software and infrastructure space. So it's a huge pleasure again to welcome all of you on behalf of IBM. Over the next hour, we'll explore how enterprise infrastructure is evolving to support AI workloads and resilient hybrid operations. India's enterprise infrastructure landscape is going through a major transformation. Gartner projects India's public cloud spending to reach about $17.5 billion this year itself. While AI workloads are rapidly increasing, as we all know, and it demands compute, storage, resiliency, and observability, of course. So the question enterprises are now asking is no longer whether to modernize infrastructure. It's about doing it intelligently, securely, and being operative at scale. So I'm joined today by two esteemed guests, industry leaders from the space. Firstly, let me welcome Rajkumar. He's the CIO at RPG Group. He leads tech strategy across globally distributed operations and brings deep knowledge in enterprise modernization, governance, operational resilience, infrastructure, investment strategy, and large-scale transformation leadership. So welcome to the discussion, Raj.
Thank you, Namrata.
Awesome. So we also have IBM's in-house voice, Deepak Yadav. He's the Chief Technical Specialist at IBM Storage. He also brings extensive knowledge and expertise across enterprise storage architecture, cyber resiliency, clean room recovery environments, and AI-driven infrastructure modernization. So Deepak, a very warm welcome to you as well.
Hey, good afternoon, Amrita. Good afternoon, folks.
All right, so very thrilled to begin this session. I also have with me my co-host Charles, who will now begin the conversation, starting with our first theme around AI-ready infrastructure. Over to you, Charles.
Thank you, Namrata. Thank you. Yeah, let's start with the big picture. AI ambitions are growing rapidly all across the world, and especially in India. But of course, success depends on having the right infrastructure underneath, which is why we're having this webinar. Deepak, IDC highlights that AI workloads require massive east-west traffic, 400 to 800 GB switching, and predictable low latency GPU to storage pathways. Requirements the legacy three-tier architecture simply cannot meet. From a storage and infrastructure design, what does AI ready actually look like in practice?
All right, good. This is the most important topic that everyone is discussing, because what we are trying to do is to use the legacy hardware or the technology or the architecture and fit it into AI requirements, which is completely different. The traditional requirements are north and south. Server used to access all the data which is there on the storage, and that's the north and south way of using the data. But now with the GPUs and a lot of GPUs together, it's a cluster which needs to access the data east and west. So what you need today is a very high bandwidth between the GPU clusters, between the storage, and that's where the east-west bandwidth is the key, and that's where the storage has to be able to handle that kind of IO loads, the consistency in the performance, and also the data localization. The data giving all the its information to CPU, and then CPU passing on to GPU creates a overhead as well. So what you need is, you should be able to access all the data that you need directly into GPU. So use technologies like GPU direct storage. So that's where I think, the architecture has to completely change and move ahead.
Excellent. Yes, that's absolutely right. All the existing north-south has to be shifting, which is one of the biggest challenges we have today. Raj, coming to you. Gartner's June 2026 forecast shows that India's infrastructure as a service spending will surge 40% to $6.26 billion this year, driven mostly by GPU, high-speed networking, scalable storage. As a CIO, how do you think about this? Think about the build versus buy versus hybrid decisions for AI infrastructure?
Yeah, I think the yardstick for these kind of decisions would always rely on one important aspect: is what is that which can bring in the business value. Okay. So this is going to be the primary driver for most of the decisions which we normally take. So when you look at buy versus build versus hybrid kind of a decisions or so, and particularly on the AI infrastructure, it will always be, for example, in our case, we have spread across, the operations are spread across the entire world. We operate out of 110 countries. So we look at data gravity is one of the key drivers to say whether the data has to be on the edge, what data has to be on the edge, what data has to be on-prem, and what data has to be on the cloud. So it depends. I mean, we are not going to say that one size fits everything. No, it is not about that. We have hybrid decisions. We also have certain workloads on-prem. We also have workloads on cloud. So we distribute it accordingly. One is to look at cost, one is the business value, data gravity, regulatory and compliance requirements. The cost becomes the first primary driver, and these days one more aspect which is also working for us is to see whether we still have the talent who will be able to manage and operate these kind of models as such.
Absolutely. I mean, the scale is becoming larger and larger, so that makes a big difference.
Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely. That makes sense. And like Deepak, what would you say with all these enterprises running AI on managed providers while saying that they need consistency across cloud and premise and edge, as Raj mentioned? How would you practically architect workloads like this, placement strategies for AI that doesn't create dependencies on vendors?
While everyone wants to go ahead in the race and achieve the best of AI, but obviously there's a cost to it. There's a manageability, how reliable the model gets trained, and then are you really able to get the necessary benefit of it is obviously a key driver. But I would say if the important thing is what is the foundation, what is the data that you're training your model with. So you have to ensure that data is right, the foundation is right, and I would say the training of the models can obviously be on the cloud, and but the inferencing and the other things can also be on premise. But the important is the foundation, the data. It should be on a storage or a sort of logical namespace which is consistent across your on-prem and the cloud. So a storage, they have offerings in the market where is a namespace can actually scale across cloud as well as on-premise, and it'll have the same view of the data. So logically, data is completely on one platform, and then it accessed from either on cloud or on-premise. So this is on how closeness you want in terms of physical, you can keep that workload on the cloud or on the on-premise.
Okay, and the data can be shared across any of these.
Across the sites, yeah. That's the namespace capability is there that can actually do that for you.
That's amazing. Okay, great. And this kind of hybrid cloud, Raj, this is going to cost a lot more. Like infrastructure cost is growing at 30% annually. But IDC says that 70% of C-suite executives now require strict ROI alignment to justify this infrastructure spending. How do you build a business case for infrastructure that enables AI? What metrics would land with the board?
I think one fundamental thing which I wanted to bring in is, see, when you actually, go and talk to the board, the language which they understand it's not the technical language. So we always need to translate the technical enablement into the financials and strategy outcomes. So unless and until we create that kind of a visibility, they will not be able to approve any kind of a budget. So that's the way it has to be. And so in a way, we always look at it in terms of how it is adding up to the revenue and what is the impact which it can bring to the revenue. So we always look at top line, and similarly, we also look at the bottom line. For example, if few of the projects are improving the cost efficiency, or is it going to reduce the cost? Is it going to increase the, it's basically like, it is always compared with top line, bottom line, what kind of risk and compliance related issues which it's sorting out, resilience and continuity, which is comes to come from our side. And one of the important aspect when we particularly look at AI is about the innovation capabilities. And that also matters a lot for us. So in any kind of an investment, we bring in top line, bottom line, risk and all is all bound to be there. But particularly when we look at the AI part, we always have to bring in the innovation capabilities as well as the resilience and continuity of it. These also plays a very important role in making decisions as such.
So the innovation capabilities, do you also have a number against them, or it's more like it's a selling point to the board?
I would see not everything, because when I remember we talking about like when we talked about security, because in security, if you typically look at AI is in a very advanced stages right now.
Right.
But when we were trying to sell at that point of time, it's not about selling. It is basically trying to give the ideas to the management. They always compare with the ROI, which is
Right.
extremely difficult in the initial stages. So
Right.
we always used to say how it is helping us in terms of compliance and avoidance of future cost and avoidance of future penalties and all that things.
Right.
Same thing applies with AI also. I mean, AI will be easier than the security related aspects, because here we are also talking about the ROIs. There it is extremely difficult for us to bring in the ROI.
Right.
components.
That's more a risk management.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, that's very interesting. Thanks. So we're talking about AI ready infrastructure, but building for AI is not just about performance, as you all know. It's about resilience, flexibility, and the
Yeah,
ability
yes.
to operate across diverse environments. So this brings us to our next topic, which is resilient hybrid foundations. Namrata, will you take this topic?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Charles, for opening our first theme. I think being the head of engineering at SalesboxAI, he brought some genuine research to his questions. So thanks, Charles, for that. He's also opening a poll for our audiences, and the chat is also open for participation. Let me remind everyone. So if you have any questions, please feel free to do that. Our respected speakers will be taking up those questions also. So moving on to the next theme, which is resilient hybrid foundations. I think I'll begin with Deepak. So Deepak, we are here talking about IBM's hybrid cloud strategy positions. So how do enterprises running a mix of on-premises, private cloud, and public cloud, how does that stay connected through a consistent orchestration layer? And what does the practical migration journey look like for, let's say, a large Indian enterprise with significantly large legacy infrastructure?
All right. So I would say, first of all, what you have to move, essentially you have to move your data out of your a cloud, maybe for a cost reason or a controllability reason. You have to get your data safe. You have the control of your data to be brought back to another cloud or on-premise. So you have to have a layer of storage or data that can do that for you. So a sort of space which ensures that data gets moved seamlessly, has a control which is with the customer, not completely with the cloud provider. And that's where we have solutions called Scale that can bring your data back from any cloud provider and get to shared there. Obviously, the decision is obviously based on sort of cost. But then now, going forward, the discussion is also about the controllability of your data. Do you have the control? Do you have security of the data? So maybe those kind of capabilities are there in the market which can help the customers.
Yeah, I think it's very critical to remove those operational frictions. So thank you for answering that, Deepak. Raj, my next question is for you. Now, I've read that the Uptime Institute's 2025 annual outage analysis, it found that human error remains the number one cause of outages, specifically failures around operational process discipline. Now, how do you build a resilience culture that systematically reduces human error risk?
Let me put the context differently. I mean, are we really creating psychological safety with the human beings within the organization? Because unless and until we don't build a culture within the organization wherein there is a psychological safety for people to fail and also report about their failures, is something which we need to build within the organization. Okay. And that is where we first and foremost thing, which I would say is the psychological safety becomes a important thing. Second comes up is bringing in the accountability. I would say instead of having postmortems done where we are trying to find faults with people, I would rather call it as blameless postmortems, which we should keep doing about it. And the rest of all the things is yes, we need to build standardization, build guardrails, continuous learnings, always human in the loop. Because whenever we talk about any kind of an automations, we are not even talking about AI ML right now, but any kind of automation, the human becomes an important aspect in the entire ecosystem. Okay. We should always have a human in the loop because the accountability will always be resting with the humans, not with the machines or neither with the AI or any kind of a automation which we try to do. We will only be able to bring that culture, as I told you before, psychological safety, which we need to say, we need to make the accountability as a picture. We should ensure and educate them. They should always be in the continuous loop. They should always be able to, put their opinions and scenarios, and they should always be bring into the loop of every scenario. And finally, we need to create standardizations and guardrails around them. And this is what I feel should be done within the organizations.
I'll add on to it. Recently I was having a conversation with the IT folks, and that you said, while an RPO of let's say 2 hours or 4 hours sounds lucrative, and then we had a discussion. Have you ever thought what happens to the business? How much is the loss of the business if the system is down for 2 hours? And if you think of that, then the IT folks understand, what is the magnum of this loss and compared to our readiness.
Absolutely. See, Deepak, I think you remember these CloudStrike instance which happened about, everything was all fine. I mean, people were assuming that, if you don't even have the backup solutions, issuing manual passes, understanding and, resetting the backup systems, there are many things played an important role over there. Unless and until today, in spite of we talking about the complete automations and everything, the accountability still lies with humans. Okay, if this, this component has to be thought through, and whenever we try to do any kind of a end-to-end scenarios, we should always have the human in the loop as such, and we should always, rest of the things is today. I think maybe we'll talk on the operations part, but see, unless and until we don't change the mindset of the people from what they are doing from an operations to, the future readiness part of it, this has to be done by humans only. So it's just not relying only complete on automation or completely relying on the AI outcomes will not suffice the need. So maybe we will continue on this. Namrata, you can go ahead. Thanks, Deepak, to adding it up. Yeah.
Lovely. I think that's a very mature take coming from leaders like you, that psychological safety is as much important while we're talking about operational risks, because ultimately humans are at the helm of this. So loved that thought, honestly. All right. So my next question is to Deepak on a separate topic about policy-based replication. So policy-based replication and high availability architecture are now core capabilities in IBM Storage virtualized. So how does that replication change the way storage teams manage business continuity, and where do enterprises create dangerous gaps by treating storage layer HA and application layer HA as separate problems? What do you think?
So essentially, while everyone knows, the storage has a capability to replicate data between the systems and across the sites. we used to have that, and we wanted to enhance that capability with some additional controls with the customer. Controls like the customer can specify what they want to achieve, and with the availability of the link that customer can afford, or based on the fluctuation of the fluctuation of the available links, the system can adopt and vary the it does not pause the replication, but it is continue the replication with a varied space, varied capability it has. So what the policy based replication that we have brought in is basically allows you to set the RPO, and when you set the RPO and give you the link, it'll basically run and configure everything allowed on both the sides, and then ensure that this replication does not stop. It continues to do even if the link is low, link is higher, and if just in case it has paused, it'll continue to monitor what has gone there and what has not gone there, and then when the link resumes, it starts automatically again. Other point you mentioned about the HA, high availability. But this is something for the on-premise clients. If you are worried of a system failing, a data platform failing, we have brought a capability called high availability, which means the application write at once, but the storage will have two physical storages, and the data gets copied to both of them synchronously without the application knowing, without the server knowing, and then they are like an HA to each other. So one of them can fail, the other can resume because of any reason, and they can be part across maybe on the same floor or a different floor, but within the same data center site. So that's the HA capability IBM has in the storage system.
Nice, that's deep. I think that's where theoretical resilience becomes very different from tested resilience. So thanks, Deepak, for answering that. I'll also ask Raj a specific question related to his organization, KEC International. So KEC International operates globally across power transmission, construction, and infrastructure, where resilience means continuity across geos, time zones, and variable connectivity conditions. So how do you architect and actually test that kind of resilience at scale, Raj?
Yeah, I think I would rather call it as this, particularly KEC, our own company, for which we found it to be more difficult to architect than any other company, because I've been working with I work with multiple companies wherein I've built in smart mines and whatnot. But the peculiar problem which I've seen with us right now is the projects keeps moving, in the sense, like, for example, you wanted to lay a transmission line, so of about 100 kilometers or 200 kilometers or 300 kilometers. The project keeps moving, and the terrains in which it moves are very difficult. So when the power lines are being laid, availability of internet is not available. Then it closes the doors for us, because you will not be able to use cloud, you don't have the connectivity, and the site becomes in a silo. It is cut off from the world. So it is extremely difficult to get the visibility on the project sites. So that is the reason why I started with the previous question, where I told Charles also that it is extremely difficult to say that yes, one solution will fit for us. No, it's not about that. We have to do a due diligence from site to site, and we have to build a multi-region and a kind of a design which could be active. We look at edge solutions. We look at connectivity as one of the prime aspects for us. See whether the infrastructure can be built, and whether the data can be, which data should be in the central systems, which data should be at the edge. We also need to we have to look at all these kind of solutions. So that is the reason why it could be on-prem, it could be edge solutions, it could be cloud. So there are multiple kind of architectures we actually consume basically to give the solutions. So on top of it, when we look at building how the NOC, SOC solutions, how the we also look at the compliance and security embedded architecture into it, because the moment we don't consider them, and we run a drone or we try to capture a data from one location, so it is cut off from the world. So the theft, or it could be the architecture will not you not allow us to have the data thefts also. So there are a lot of things. So we embed compliance, we embed observability, we embed connectivity, we look at edge, we look at multi-region, we look at the operations to allow them to operate easily. So there are many things which we try to do in these areas as well. So to answer your question, not one solution fit for us.
Right. Yeah, thanks for answering it with that depth and bringing that real world perspectives. Excellent insights from both of you. So I think we've discussed resilience from an enterprise architecture perspective. Now let's go into the storage layer of IBM. So Deepak has a presentation for all of us, which will, I think Deepak will be the better person to tell us about that. Over to you.
Amrita, let me just share and get going. If we can just confirm it's visible.
Yes.
All right. So I've kept the few slides considering we are largely discussing AI, and this is the first chart we usually use it to discuss. Because the GPUs or the fastest servers who are holding GPUs will be slowest server. If the data is not available, because otherwise they will keep waiting. So storage, essentially is the key player in this AI infrastructure, and that's where IBM has a software with an architecture called Global Data Platform. It's basically a software which either comes an appliance or it can just be a software, can be installed on any kind of x86 architecture or any RISC processor architecture. And what it can do is basically creates a unified namespace, okay, which essentially means you can have different hardwares of storage, but they will all be a logically one namespace, a one file system. And it can even, sort of virtualize an existing investment of a customer. Let's say a customer has maybe an NetApp storage or a Dell storage, which has some workloads running, some data which needs to be also pulled together for your AI work project. You can actually virtualize that data as well. And continuously, you don't have to create a copy from that data. It is actually a seamless virtualization. So anything that is getting generated new on the NetApp storage, it gets easily available to the same platform. And as the workloads wants to access, because some workloads would want to access the data in object protocol, some wants to access in the file or a block, or some HDFS protocol. What this platform does is essentially keeps a one copy of the data in a native platform, native protocol, and that native protocol actually can convert the same data into different protocols. To give you a better perspective, I'll show you the next slide. So if you here see with my cursor, that's one platform that can actually use any non-IBM storages or sort of different type of hardware storages, and could be very high performance, could be lower performance, even could be a tape. All of them pooled together as one unified storage. And the same data can be accessed through NFS, through SMB, or an object protocol like S3. Okay, again, going to the HDFS Hadoop system as well. So what it does is basically carves out all the hardware bonding and brings all the capability on the software layer. And if you see these blocks running around here and there, it essentially tells you that the platform is also capable of moving the data underneath between the hardwares, which is called as information lifecycle management. Let's say the data gets generated today, and obviously when you create it, when you want to access it for your AI projects, it has to be on the highest performance possible. So we keep it on the flash. Let's say the project finishes in, let's say, 4-6 weeks, and after 6 weeks you want to move that data to a lower performance. You don't have to do anything physically, or admin doesn't have to do anything. You have to just set a policy. The data which is created on this date gets moved after 4 weeks. Or you can set a policy like this, that if the data is not being accessed by anyone in last 6 weeks, move it to this layer. And this movement can also happen to a tape in the end, archive it to a tape, let's say after 6 months or a year, move it to a tape as the lowest tier, and that saves the cost, but also available data as on demand, because even if the data has gone to tape, it is still accessible as a file, and if you click the file, the data gets retrieved automatically from the tape system as well. So that's where this platform is very helpful. If you see this chart of NVIDIA testing with our systems, we have actually crossed all of the competitive OEMs in terms of the throughput. And I was telling about the East and West throughput. This is where systems like IBM Scale 6000, it is just a 2U machine, a unit which can give you about a petabyte of storage, can go about 310 gigabyte of throughput. So now you can put multiple of them as one cluster single namespace, and you can have into terabytes of throughput for your AI projects. And this also supports the NVIDIA's GPU direct storage protocol, which means you skip the CPU in between, and directly storage can process the data and give it to your GPUs on demand. So we have certified systems listed with NVIDIA's DGX systems, and we help customers select which one goes with what scale of system that you're trying to model it for your projects. On the second theme, besides the global data platform, IBM is also researching into flash semiconductor systems. Not every OEM, or very few OEMs in the industry who are doing this research on flash media. And this flash media is called flash core module. It's basically in the 5th generation of its lifetime. And what we have brought in here is a QLC NAND, which is the quad level cell. Essentially, you can write very dense data inside every cell. And what we have done is we have put in a processor inside every drive. So if you see on the right hand side, there is a 4-core ARM processor of an AMD chip that we have put in every drive. Actually, that does ransomware detection under 60 seconds for your data. So it does compression, it does deduplication. It additionally also does your security quantum safe encryption. And then in the last, we have added the ransomware detection. And it's a technology in itself. We do a half a day session for the customers who wants to understand this brilliant engineering that IBM has done. But in short, all of this done on the drive level ensures that your controller is not doing all of this. It's free of all of these overheads to do just perform the IO processing of your data. So AI projects, when using this kind of hardware, doesn't have to wait for any sort of affinity, all of this, and completely gets pure performance from your flash. And all of the compliance, all of the detections happens at the drive level. And we don't skip any IO. We actually do monitoring of every write IO. And then within 54 seconds, we actually do analysis and then a confidence model of ransomware, and gives you our recommendations under 60 seconds to check and take actions if there is any possible attack on your data. So that's where IBM is researching into. We have systems running with this always on features in core banking, in critical data warehouses to give you high throughputs as well. So I think that's the brief I wanted to share. Obviously, there's a lot of tech, and we have systems to show you. I have a drive as well, if you can see this in my hand. And we can have a session if you are interested in this tech, possibly in the future. Over to you, Namrata.
Thank you, Deepak. That is indeed a very significant, deep presentation from you, technically advanced. And like he said, if there are any questions related to that, then Deepak is there to answer them personally, and the IBM team. So the next block will be taken up by Charles, which is about data sovereignty. Over to you, Charles.
Thank you, Namrata. Thank you, Deepak. That's really interesting. And as you're pointing out, even hardware now, we've got compliance requirements going into that. That's because with all this data that we have, It's obviously, the gold mine that we're all looking for. But one message that comes through is that data is really the fuel for the AI. As Raj mentioned also, data is what's key. Right? But as organizations unlock more value from this data, they're also facing increasing expectations around trust, governance, privacy, compliance, all that. So coming to you, Deepak, we've had this clean room architectures where we we isolate sensitive data into immutable AI-gapped environments. How does this clean room fit into a real enterprise data protection and compliance strategies?
Clean room now is moving ahead from just discussions in the room to actual implementations. What it does is basically takes the copy of your data and tries to scan it for any malware and keeps it ready. If the attack happens, you have a ready available copy of your data. And in sort of, if I come from the background of IBM technology, we have something called as storage defender. If you possibly and Raj would also agree, the larger clean room that everyone today is doing is from a backup perspective. You have a backup solution, you take those backup copies and put it in a clean room or a IRE, which is isolated recovery environments, push it there and keep it there safe. But that's a backup copy. Let's say we are at about 3 p.m. today. Let's say the attack happens now, and if I've secured my backup copy from last night, I am almost losing more than 12 hours of data, which is a lot of data. So now IBM has a capability called Storage Defender. This defender actually takes control of your immutable snapshots on the primary storage or a primary data systems as well. So what it does is basically creates an application awareness of group, which is, let's say, one database. Now it has primary data on this systems, backup data on this systems. It takes immutable snapshots for this application database on the primary systems. Take those snapshots, put it in the clean room, scan it for any malware, and tick mark it as clean. Also does it for the backup. And then let's say for a scenario of an attack happens, and then you want to look into your IRE environment, clean room environment, what is available to restore. You should have a clean index of, this application has this many immutable copies scanned and ready. And for the backup as well, these are the copies. And then you select and choose, what time in the, you have to go back to which copy and then start your business. Right. So clean room is real and, started to getting implemented with this kind of software similar to Storage Defender.
That's really interesting. Yeah, because all this data obviously is having issues and with trust as well. So Raj, beyond just this compliance, data trust has business dimensions, right? IBM researchers found that nearly half organizations plan to raise prices after data breaches, with a third of them raising prices by 15% or more. How does this data infrastructure quality become a competitive and brand issue, not just an IT issue, in your opinion?
See, I would say the data infrastructure or data is just not about an IT asset, because it, as you rightly pointed out, that the price increases or the increase in any of any kind of a price increase is all related with, not in terms of the lost data, but in terms of lost trust.
Yeah.
So it's like, yes, there are also costs which will get added onto it, maybe because we need to do a remediation. I was curious to understand. I was listening to Deepak, because if some attack happens and then by the time you restore back, there's a huge cost and a huge disruption in the entire ecosystem. And that itself is something. It's just not about business loss. It's basically trust is also gone. Business losses are there. There's a lot of disruption in the entire ecosystem. Many things happens.
Yeah, the brand itself gets damaged.
It's a brand itself, because now what happens is, people believe in you and the trust is lost right now. Okay, right. That's one important thing, because we are not putting all these kind of systems for wins and fantasies, but because we want the operations should not get impacted. But right. Even if it is impacted, the person should not be knowing, and then it should work smoothly. If we are able to build that kind of systems, it doesn't practically happens.
Right.
Because most of the systems which I was looking at right now, immutables, and we try to take up backups. But what happens is anything you do, the RPOs and RTOs will get impacted. Okay. And that itself means that there is a business disruption. And it itself means that, yes, there's a loss as well as there's a cost associated with it. And the cost is not only losing the business, but you're also losing your future business also. And that is where the trust comes into picture. So, I mean, that is, I will not say why somebody has to raise 15% or more, because if you have taken the right steps at the right time, then I think we should not allow it to happen. But yes, the security is one area wherein nobody will be able to 100% say that by putting all the guardrails and everything, nothing will happen to me. No, it doesn't happen that way.
Yeah.
So if it happens, yes, the consequences has to be borne by everyone.
Right.
So there is an associated cost associated with it. So I think in a nutshell, what I would say that yes, there is a price which will get increased, because one is restoration itself or remediation itself will cost you something.
Right.
There are also regulatory related issues coming into picture. There is a reputation which will also be at stake. There is some of them will always say that, yes, I will not let it happen. So this is my market differentiator. So that my price will get increased by giving you a, kind of a secured system to you.
Right.
So I think in a nutshell, what I'm saying is there are, the moment you wanted to put in the ecosystem in place so that there is more trust on you, then it comes with a price. But if it happens, then again, there is something which people will always say that, you will have to take the heat. So one is put the guardrails, put the ecosystem in place, put necessary things. It will come at a cost, or else the cost which will come if something happens to you in terms of a data loss will be more damaging than what you can put it in and around as a guardrails, right? Okay. Yeah.
That makes
Charles.
sense. Sorry, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense, Raj. It's very interesting. So thinking about, especially the regulatory and requirements, right, and residency requirements, say things like healthcare and BFSI, where data localization and residency is really compounding. How would the infrastructure decisions here in these regulated verticals be different from the general environments? Deepak, what do you think?
Yeah, obviously, would obviously Raj would be very
Clear.
the right way to answer this. But then my perspective, these days that what I see in the industry and people who are taking decisions is they really want to control. It's beyond what any cloud or any technology can give you benefits or performance or speed, but then plus what can you offer in security, in detection of any attacks. That's where add-on points you get in, and then they can compromise a slight on the performance but not on the security layer. They say if you don't have these capabilities, this quantum safe encryptions, sort of detections on the ransomware threat, we would actually go with another vendor even if it has a lower performance or any feature short of feature. So that's the decision changes that I'm seeing.
I see. So Raj, would you like to add to that? Because as Deepak says, of course, you would be in.
Yeah, I was just curious to answer.
Yeah.
I was listening. I mean, Deepak said absolutely right. But I think, what happens is when you look at data residency versus system performance, okay, these are the only thing which we have to look at. So there are certain applications, like for example, you look at ERPs and SAPs and large systems, which for us, like they operate at a global level. Okay. But there are GDPRs as well as DPDPs now, which is coming into in India. They always want to have the local presence. Okay. Now what happens is when you look at a global system versus your local laws, you will not be able to create entire ecosystem and guardrails for the localization part. then there will be an impact on the performance part. So we have to have some kind of a I would say trade-offs in all these kind of scenarios as such. So the first important thing is, because if it is coming as a regulatory or a compliance related issues, you don't have a say in it. You have to create the guardrails in and around that. Okay. But there are, I would say, as I told you, the real architectural issues and the tensions comes in for the applications which are global based systems, which could be SAPs and ERP systems and all. So somewhere or the other, though we say that yes, BFSI, healthcare comes with more stringent laws than us, then we look at the national laws and then comes the global laws. So everybody are looking at creating, the policies and procedures and guardrails in and around the data residencies in that, specific areas. It could be DPDP acts. It could be in terms of, the global laws in terms of securities. Many things has to be considered.
GDPR.
So there will always have to be some trade-off between the system performance and the data residency issues.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting, especially the fact that it would be the global scale would have a lot more complexity and it's growing as well daily. This
Correct.
requirement. Correct. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, thanks. This is actually an interesting section. Let's move on, Namrata, to the intelligent infrastructure. Because now AI is in everything, so we now have intelligent infrastructure. Do you want to take that section?
Yeah, so thanks for that discussion. I think that was very informative for our audiences. These days, talk about data trust, sovereignty, compliance is very, very critical, as we know. So I think we've covered infrastructure, design, resilience, brand reputation, guardrails, trust, governance. So lots of topics have been covered. And now let's move into what may become the defining closing section for all of us. All in all, the intelligent infrastructure operations. So let's dig into that. Let me talk about IBM and talk to Deepak now. So IBM was named a leader in the 2025 Gartner Magic Quadrant for Observability platforms, specifically for Instana's AI-driven full-stack observability with 1 second metrics and 3 second trace notifications. I think that's very impressive. So what do you think? What does full-stack observability mean in practice? Especially, I think our audiences would like to know that for a hybrid multi-cloud environment, and why does the distinction between monitoring and observability matters?
Yeah, so legacy way is the monitoring way. Everyone monitors each of the application landscapes and then see if there is something falling. And the monitoring dashboards that we usually see in moments is individually what has failed and what metric failed. But then the monitor never had a complete view, or it could not group the applications together to give you a sort of visualization, that an application needs all of this together to work and give you an outcome. So that monitoring never had. But with observability, you can bring everything together, and the tool will actually look at all the application needs at various stages, various parts in the completion of that. Maybe for a payment, let's say it started from a user's mobile and then it goes to various layers in the application, then goes to database, deducts the balance and bring it back. So there are 15 to 20 systems that come in picture. So the observability tool basically has view on all of them, and it can actually tell you what if the transaction failed, it failed because of which layer, where it was failing, and it actually can also tell you the remediation of that. And it can actually do between the various kind of on-premise and cloud tools. So that's where observability is key. And, that's where IBM actually acquired a company called Instana a couple of years back. And then that's where we're bringing that capability and adding Instana to all of our systems critical for banking and other areas.
Right. So those distinctions and capabilities are indeed important. So I think I would also like to have Raj's opinion, the CIO perspective. So the Flash System 9600 claims up to 57% reduction in operational costs through agentic AI management. So when vendors make ROI claims like this, what framework do you use to test them against the reality of operations?
I think one word I could say is test it under the operational reality, because what happens is, yes, I agree, and I've been curious to know, the innovations which IBM is bringing in to get the observability from the, monitoring perspective. From just not on monitoring, but now getting the observability, and you are able to correlate all of them. And I'll be happy to understand more about a product of this nature. But yes, there are a lot of vendors who starts claiming about many things. But what happens is, unless and until we look at the holistic part, and we don't tie it up with our own KPIs. Like, for example, we have been seeing a lot of vendors claiming a lot of things, but what we try to do is, we always look at end to end from our own KPIs, and we always tie these things with our own KPIs to see whether it is falling between the cracks. And most of the time we see that, yes, everybody claims that they are good, but end of the day, the desired results are, I would say, rather everybody fails, because everybody says they are doing their work, but as Deepak was pointing it out, the monitoring of individual systems are fantastic, but are we really able to tie the end-to-end knots? I mean, that is where the observability comes into picture. I think the only way, I would say, the framework which you're talking about, how do you test it, how do you ensure that it is close to reality and all, is to anchor to your own KPIs. We have to look at your, I would say, how the vendors' assumptions and on what basis they are claiming. We always, we should look at and validate their assumptions. We also need to look at, what we normally do is, we do a lot of POCs, and then we wanted to ensure that these pilots are tested, and then is it really covering up all the risk which we were earlier envisaging. Then we only always have benchmarking. We do a lot of third party assessments to be done on our whole ecosystems. We look at the entire life cycle. We have, but what happens is, we also, when we do all these things, we also need to look at, is it really making cost viability or not? That would be our yardstick in general, to see whether it makes for us that, are we overbuilding or underbuilding of something for us. Okay.
Yes, I think that's understandable and an important reality check, because enterprises today are looking for measurable operational simplification, I think,
Absolutely.
and not just
Absolutely.
features, a set of features. So thank you for that practical answer, Raj. So I think, Deepak, I would again like to dig into Flash System. So flashsystem.ai introduces agentic AI, and there's a lot of talk regarding that these days. I think nobody has escaped from that talk. So let's dig into that space as well. So agentic AI as a co-administrator for storage, automating management, compliance, and security tasks, while claiming major reductions in manual effort. Operationally, what does storage that manages itself actually look like? And what does it free infrastructure teams to focus on?
So IBM development has, also began the journey of agentic AI in the storage, like all other products in IBM. So agentic AI basically gives you, the admin gets to actually talk with an agent and, gets the work done. It's very easy to do a chat, just say that, I want these to be created for my upcoming database workload, or any sort of workload. And then the system does that provisioning and gives you a final ask for go ahead. And then if you just say yes, it provisions everything. You don't have to create manually anything on the storage GUI or storage administrator CLI. You just have to verbally chat on and say. So that's where the optimization is coming for the larger set of customer. I would say Raj equally said, right, that while not every technology will resonate with every customer, a small customer, a manufacturing customer, or a small customer who has only 2-4 systems to manage, he really doesn't have to optimize with, getting agentic AI implemented in their farm, and then that overhead of managing that agentic system itself. But if the customer has 100 plus in a bank who has, 4 data centers to manage, he has 50 plus systems in every site, and then he has a team of 6 7 people, then that's where, thing like agentic AI will help, and he'll be able to create everything. And also on the security guardrail, we have not started allowing agents to do any destructive commands. It can only do provisioning, it can only do modifications for performance enhancements, but no destruction, no canceling of the processes on the storage. So we are gearing up on that, and our customers have started to enjoy that. So it's gonna take some time for adoption, but yeah, it is where everyone is moving, agentic.
That's
True.
right.
True.
Yeah.
I also love to research about that. So yes, Raj, you were saying something.
No. I think what Deepak was talking about is absolutely right. We also need to think about how deep are our cockpits, and accordingly, we need to start taking up the technologies into the ecosystem. I think it is important that because we keep I remember talking to my CFO about multiple independent systems for security, and ATPs, SAS, and SASE, and then we have SIM. There are multiple systems are already in place, but how do we really correlate all of them? How do we really get the meaningful outcome of that? How do we ensure that the collaboratively we are able to take decisions? So we built in a lot of playbooks. We try to see how much human intervention can be reduced and all that thing. So anyway, Deepak, I understand what you're saying. So I think it is important that the use cases will always be on the appetite and the need of the business requirements, and accordingly the tools has to be deployed within the organizations as such.
Actually,
yeah, sorry, I think Namrata. Yeah.
That was actually very interesting because there's a lot of chat questions coming, and one of the interesting ones that came up was how much of AI has shown any realistic impact versus how much is hype versus FOMO, I guess, fear of missing out. So, what would you say to that, Deepak and Raj?
Okay, do you want me to answer? See, I would say rather it is, as long as the way things are changing right now is, I think the first question which you asked me, Charles, was as long as we are able to generate the data, which is synthetic data, because the data is increasing right now. We definitely needs as a humans to help us making decisions as such. The decision making is only possible in case we are able to create meaningful outcomes, in the sense, like, for example, we look at factory automations and all. So the sensors are also generating data. We also know that applications are already generating huge volumes of data. Then, there are many touch points which have increased, and massively the data is getting generated. Do you think humans will be able to process this data? No, it is not possible. The only way is that AI would help us in giving you predictive and prescriptive kind of inputs, and based on the inputs you will get prescriptive or prescriptive data and self services over a period of time as a data to us. But are we in the right stage that it will be in a self service mode? No, because that is where I was talking about human in the loop, and human has to take that final decision making. These are only facilitators for us, and then finally we take a decision, because the context is still not clear. But yes, where it is really developed a lot is in terms of security areas, I would say, rather, because billions and millions of logs are getting generated out of systems, and it is not humanly possible for us to do the correlation of all this thing. And it is really helping us a lot in the security areas right now, and it is in a very far advanced stage. And we created playbooks which would help us even to take decisions and also execute actions on our behalf. So that is where it is in an advanced stage. Yes, on shop floors, many other places, yes, a lot of areas it is in advanced stages right now. So I would not say that it is completely we are relying on it. But yes, it has progressed a lot, and we cannot have a blank ear or eyes towards it to say that the AI is still a buzzword everywhere. No, it is not. That's what I can say. Deepak, anything you want to add?
Absolutely. So, because IBM is a obviously a major player in AI, our systems itself, client zero, we have a steady which says client zero, and I've not seen HR in my office. I've not seen a lot of staffs which you really need in a normal organization. I've not seen them. Everything is AI based. You just have to chat, and the systems does it for
Deepak, I
you.
think the first IBM Watson is the one which I've used it, 8 years back, when I was with Adani as such. So I remember, because I have not seen the same kind of a progression. That is a different story. But IBM Watson was something which we have used, long back as such. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's
Yeah, go
still
ahead.
there. It has multiple forms of getting you governance, getting you manageability, and I saw a query around reliability of AI solution. So essentially, if you look at the Watson X portfolio of AI technologies, IBM has a governance product as well, which ensures that the data that you use or the outcome that is given by the AI is actually traceable to a study or to a data. So governance will give you that reliability and metrics to understand if the AI solution is going right or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Charles, any other questions?
No, actually, I'll give the results of the polls because that's really interesting to everybody as well. So we had 2 polls, and folding back into governance, one of the things was, what is the organization's most urgent storage and resilience challenge right now? And 40% of the result was data sovereignty and compliance. So, DPDPA and localization requirements are not being addressed. So I think a lot of people are looking in this area right now. The other thing also ties in a little bit to our discussion, Raj, is that the other poll was, what is the single biggest obstacle to making your infrastructure AI ready today? And 50%, that is half of the audience, replied that budget and ROI justification, because the board has not been convinced yet. So we are still very much in that, in 50% of people are still looking at, yes, what are we getting out of this, and not able to sell it yet. So those are also interesting results, I think.
Yeah. I think people have to take things in a phased-wise manner,
Right.
because unless and until we don't have the phased-wise approach, even for the AI and all, I think it's going to be extremely difficult. So you will not be able to create one single solution to say that, yes, this is what we want to achieve it. No, it doesn't work, because most of the companies are we call it them as brownfield, because there is already an existing infrastructure in place. So you will not be able to phase out the old infrastructure and go with the latest tools. That is not going to happen.
Yeah.
And whenever you plan for AI projects, the projects has to be, first is we need to target at a macro level, fine tune the results over a period of time, your agents, and then your model will start learning over a period of time. Then you need to start increasing the more and more use cases to it, and then start expanding. So it cannot be like a top-down approach to say that, yes, this is what we'll plan the entire infrastructure and we'll start rolling it out, and doesn't work in reality.
Agreed. Excellent. Thank you for those answers.
Yeah.
And so if we have time, we could, because we are running low on time, Namrata, what do you think? We could take one more minor question, or should we close?
I feel we're almost there, so let's give it a wrap. I feel intelligent infrastructure transformation is ultimately as much a talent evolution story as it is a technology evolution story. So it was really nice to talk to our leaders, Deepak and Raj. Deepak led on storage architecture, IBM infrastructure capabilities, and Raj brought that vital CIO lens, some suspicion, and very, very practical perspectives around enterprise transformation, governance, operational resilience, and board level decision making also. So it was really nice to have that talk with both the speakers here. And thank you for all the participation from the attendees. Lots of questions came in, but we had a very packed 60 minutes. So let's see you on the other side, maybe on LinkedIn, and we can chat regarding this topic. And let's stay hooked on to this conversation, because I think it's gonna stay for a long, long time now that we are in the AI era. So thank you all for joining in. Thank you, Deepak. Thank you, Raj. Thank you, Charles, for navigating our talk. I have a lot of takeaways from this talk, and I hope our audience also have that. So thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Namrata, for
Thank you very much.
hosting it really well. And thank you, Raj. Thank you, Deepak. We learned a lot. It was an excellent conversation with all your insights.
Yeah. Thanks, Narmata, Charles, as well as Deepak. It was nice talking to you all, guys, and it was good sharing each other's experiences. And we keep meeting occasionally like this. Thanks. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Good luck, everyone. Have a nice day.